Hey guys. Sorry. Give me just a second. Okay, sorry. I needed to unplug it from my TV. Good afternoon or good morning, whichever time you're watching this. I hope you had a good long weekend. You enjoyed yourself. Hope you stayed out of trouble. You maybe got some sleep and got rested up. I know last week was tough coming back from a 3-week break. So make sure you're staying on top of things and taking care of business, all right? If you're falling behind or if you don't understand what we're doing, please reach out to me, okay? This unit is going to build and build and build, okay? So make sure you're staying on top of things. You do not want to fall behind in this unit. All right. So last week we started talking about exponents. We did a review unit. In a review lesson. Then we talked about when we multiply exponents. So when we multiply things that have the same base, we add up their exponents. Then we did a lesson on quotients, which means division. And when we divide things that have the same base, we ended up subtracting their exponents. All right, so now we're going to move into this new concept of negative exponents. So what do we do if we see a negative sign in front of our exponent? What does that mean? So let's work through this and see if we can figure it out. So just like last week, we said 4 cubed means we're doing 4 times 4 times 4. We're doing multiplying 4 by itself 3 times. So that's what we have, 4 times 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Then we have 4 squared is 4 times 4. We're multiplying it by itself 2 times, and that is 16. 4 to the power of 1 is 4. Multiply it 1 time. Then last week we discovered that we had this pattern where we divided by 4 every time, right? 64 divided by 4 gave us 16. 16 divided by 4 gave us 4. So then we use that same idea to divide by 4 again and find out that 4 to the power of 0 is 1, or anything to the power of 0 is 1. So now let's continue that pattern. We figured that out last week. Let's see what happens if we do that again. So we have this 4 to the negative 1. We're going to keep going down. We're going to keep dividing by 4 again. Well, that means I have 1 divided by 4, which is 1/4. So let's try it again. Divided by 4 again. So then we would have 1/4 divided by 4. That means let me scoot this over a little bit. We would do 1/4 divided by 4, which means we change flip. So keep 1/4 times 1/4, which is 1/4 squared. Oops, I erased that 4 up there. Okay, so let's do that one more time. We're going to divide by 4 again. So I'm going to we have 1/4 squared divided by 4. So again, we keep 1/4 squared, change the division to multiplication, flip the 4 to 1/4. Well, that's 1/4 cubed. So what do we notice about our exponent? If it's -1, we ended up putting a 4 in the denominator. And what's my exponent on this 4? Is a 1. It's a positive 1. Then we had a -2 and our 4 went to the denominator and it became +2. We had a -3 and the 4 went to the denominator and we got a +3 as an exponent. So what do we notice between 4 squared and 4 to the -2? So what do we notice between this and this? Well, let's take 1/4 squared and let's do 4 squared. That would be 1/16, right? So what's the difference between the two? Well, hopefully we noticed that we just flipped it. Because 16 is the same thing as 16/1. We can turn it into a fraction. And then if we just flip that, then we would get 1/16. This is also called the reciprocal. That's the vocabulary word, reciprocal. All right, so let's see if it happens again. So we have 2 cubed, which is 8. 2 times 2 times 2. We have 2 squared, which is 2 times 2, and that's 4. So we divided by 2 here. 2 to the power of 1 is just 2. We divided by 2 again. 2 to the 0, we already said anything to the 0 power is 1. Again, we divided by 2. That's how we figured that out last week. 2 to the negative 1. Well, I don't know how to write that. But if I continue this pattern of dividing by 2, then that means I should end up with 1/2. And if I continue the pattern of dividing by 2 again, then I should end up with 1/2 divided by 2, which is 1/2 times 1/2, which is 1 over 2 squared, which is 1/4. 2 squared is 4. So then we can do the same thing, divide by 2 again. So we have 1/4 divided by 2, or I'm going to go ahead and write that as 2 squared. 1 over 2 squared divided by 2, which is 1 over 2 squared times 1 over 2, which is 1 over 2 cubed, and 1 over 2 cubed is 1 over 8. So what do we notice about 2 cubed, which is 8, and 2 to the negative 3, which is 1 over 8? Again, it's the reciprocal. It's the reciprocal. Okay? So this is going to keep happening. What this means is anytime you have a negative exponent, you're going to flip it. It's going to go to the opposite side. So we have 5 to the negative 3. That's going to be the same thing as 1 over 5 to the positive 3. So if I know what 5 to the positive 3 is 125, then that means 5 to the negative 3 has to be 1 over 125. All right? Just like 5 squared is 25. That means 5 to the negative 2 has to be 1 over 25 because it's going to end up being 1 over 5 to the positive 2. It's going to take us to the denominator every time. So let's look at a couple problems here. Let me just add a space. So you should have this negative exponent maze. Go ahead and open that up. Make sure after you complete this maze, you go back to Canvas and hit the blue submit button. You should have a submit button here, okay? If you didn't submit the maze from Friday, make sure you do that as well. All right, so we have this first example. Let me pull this over here. This first problem here is 2x to the negative 3. So I want to look at each piece individually. I have a 2, and then I have an x to the power of negative 3. So my 2 is going to stay on top because I'm not doing anything to it. There's no exponent there. The negative 3 tells me that I have to flip it because of that negative exponent. So that means I'm going to have x to the power of 3 in the denominator. Okay, so this would be my answer. So that means my 2 stayed on top, so that means we're going to go down from that first box. I want to do, so you're going to go down. So the next problem you should work is 3x to the negative 3. That's the next problem you should work, okay? I'm going to work a different problem with you. I want to work this problem because I want to talk about this. Okay, so you should go down, continue working, figure out how to get to the end, okay? I want to work this problem because I want to talk about what's happening here. So now we can rewrite this as 1 over 3 times 1 over x to the power of negative 2, okay? So that means I have this piece and I have this piece. So I have two different things. I have, let's see, this, and I have this, okay? The x to the negative 2 is in the denominator. So I'm not doing anything to 1/3, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that. I just need to decide, how does the negative exponent affect my x? Well, if here it told me to flip it, go to the denominator, and here we're in the denominator, my rule is still to flip it. So what do I do? I'm in the denominator already. The flip means I'm going to bring it back up to the numerator. So this means I need to flip it again back to the top. I'm doing the opposite, okay? So that means I'm going to have x to the positive 2 in the numerator. So this answer would be x squared divided by 3. I didn't change the 3. The x squared is the only term that has the negative, x is the only term that has a negative exponent. It's going to come back up to the top. Okay? So go ahead and complete this maze and turn it in. So far this 9 weeks, you should have done products with powers quiz, the quotients with powers quiz. If you take those times, I don't care how many times you have to take them, if you take those two things until you make a 100, I will give you a 100 in the grade book. I don't care how many times you have to do it over and over and over again. But if you keep taking them until you make 100, I will give you 100 in the grade book. Okay. So you have those two quizzes. You have a laws of exponent maze from Friday and the negative exponent maze from today. So you have 4 grades so far. 2 of them can be 100s no matter how many times you have to do them. Okay, so make sure you do those over and over and over again. I'm going to give you 100. As long as you do it until you make 100, I will give you 100. And then you have these 2 mazes. So make sure you get those done and turned in. Remember, on the 2 mazes, you have to come back to Canvas and hit the submit button that you see on your screen, the blue submit button. If you have any questions, please let me know. See you later.